I don't think people realize that when they're sleeping, their body needs to be totally shielded from EMF.
Most important subject in life, for my personal opinion, is sleep.
The more calm we are, the more open we are to receiving from our environment.
My business is I want to sell good night's sleep, and I really want to help people feel better, sleep better, and automatically gain a better health and live a long time.
Claus and Dr. Moorcroft, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks for having us.
Looking
forward to it.
Claus, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to found Samina Sleep?
The good story. I'm originally from Germany, so everybody will recognize my strong accent, and I try to be talking slower than normally. So when I was living in Germany, I became a master cabinet maker with a master degree in woodwork, and this was leading me to building beautiful bedroom furniture in solid wood. And out of personal interest, I was always interested to sleep the best I can for my personal health and my well-being. And this led me to the founder and owner of Samina, his name is Dr. Günther Mann-Jensen. He's a psychologist, a medical doctor, an honorary professor, and a scientist in Austria. And we started a relationship between us. I was creating and designing bed frames for this company. And in the same time, I was able to try Samina for my own personal use. And then after being so successful in my own experience with Samina, this became my main business when I moved in 1998 to Toronto, Canada.
And now you live in Mexico, correct?
Now,
like me.
Like now with COVID, everything changed, the world upside down. Our last official trade show in the United States was in March 2021 in Dallas, Texas. And then from this point on, most of the trade show got canceled, and most of them actually never returned. And then everybody found out, with a summit like we're doing today in webinars, we actually have a much broader, brighter audience, and we can reach more people to talk about important things in life. And most important subject in life, for my personal opinion, is sleep. We always underestimating sleep. Sleep is passive life, what seems kind of boring and not exciting, but Dr. Tom Moorcroft will recognize this in his work, how important sleep is. Then when we don't sleep, we have a lot of issues, right, Tom?
Yes. Yeah. And I personally have always prioritized sleep ever since I was a teenager. It was just, for me, something that I've always made sure that, I wasn't that person that woke up at 5 a.m. to go work out. I'm like, I'm sleeping in, and it's something I've always prioritized. And I attribute my good health today to better sleep. So Tom, why don't you just talk about some roadblocks that people have to sleep when it comes to, what should we talk about? Should we talk about some consequences of poor sleep, or do you have any statistics on that, or?
Well, it's interesting for me, because it's like, like Claus alluded to, essentially a third of your life should be sleeping, give or take, depending upon where you're at in life. And I think we do kind of downplay it. And I think having over 15 years of experience, like with working directly with patients with chronic illness, like chronic Lyme disease and other chronic fatiguing illnesses, most people aren't like you, Wendy. They're just like, and this was me growing up, right? Like I would sleep, but it wouldn't do much, right? Because like no one was really teaching me about the proper foundations of how to get a good night's sleep or the importance. And I was so into sleep debt that I was exhausted all the time. And so I just said, sleep when you're dead, right? Because some paramedic told me this and I thought he was cool. And we're all overworking, we're not focusing, and we all feel bad, but we blame it on, it's our diet or some virus or, but we're not really looking at that strong foundation of why do we even sleep? Because people really didn't even know when we were growing up. Like they're just like, you do it, we think we know. And now we know that it's really important for consolidating our memories, but also one of the most important pieces is brain detoxification. And we see that so many people are looking to prevent Alzheimer's, prevent Parkinson's, and prevent all these things down the line. And they want to, they ask me, what's my best bet and what's the best brain supplement to take? I'm like, it's called sleep.
Yes, exactly.
Investing in sleep. That's what
yeah. Yeah, people worry about so many other things when it comes to their health, and they don't have the fundamentals right, like proper hydration and going for a walk in the sun every morning and sleep. And there's so many things that people get wrong with sleep that we're going to discuss today, and how to optimize your sleep as much as possible. And I mean, I have in the past had issues with sleep. Absolutely. When you're not sleeping well, you can't really focus on anything else, and I tried so many different things to optimize my sleep. And it really is, there's a learning curve to figure out how to optimize this and optimize your circadian rhythms. And there's so many things. So what are some tips that you can give people to, like, just the list that people have to check off to optimize their sleep? Even if their eyes are closed for 8 hours, people can still wake up feeling that they've been hit by a truck and totally exhausted. And what's going on there?
Yeah, I think the thing that I've learned is you hit the nail right on the head earlier, is get up and go get exposure to natural sunlight. I mean, in order to sleep well, we need to be calm, relaxed. We need to, get into this parasympathetic state where the nervous system is calm. But many of us have heard of that sleep hormone melatonin, and it actually gets triggered. Like, we create more melatonin by waking up and going out and getting that sunlight. So we're going to get a little vitamin D. We're going to kick on the production of the melatonin. And we're also going to have a lot of serotonin, which is one of our happy drugs that will allow us to, at night, when a lot of people are up thinking and worrying, well, the more serotonin you have, the less likely you are to worry. So I start my evening ritual first thing in the morning when I wake up. So I get up and I start to do all those things. Another thing is to do some form of exercise, whatever is appropriate for your level of current health. Maybe push yourself a little bit, but you need to be tired, right? So part of the reason we sleep is to rejuvenate our energy stores. Maybe we should use up some of that energy during the day. Obvious things like I have like a little cup of coffee here, but depending upon whom you talk to and how sensitive you might be, somewhere between 4 in the afternoon all the way to maybe noon, you might want to be cutting out your caffeinated beverages and your sugary beverages, so that you can really get to this place where when it's time to sleep, you can sleep. And then at bedtime, I think this is where we can really create a sleep sanctuary. And it starts, like I said, in the morning by getting up and getting the trigger to create the melatonin. But for melatonin to be released well when you're ready to go to bed, you need to do things like turn off some of the blue lights, or at least wear blue blockers and dim the screens. You want the temperature to get a little bit cooler. You want to kind of essentially create a sleep cave, right? And you want to kind of cut out a lot of the other exposures to things like Wi-Fi and other Bluetooth. So you want to minimize this electrical stuff. But the big issue that, especially when Claus and I started hanging out and talking together, what I was learning is I can minimize the impact of things like my Wi-Fi router by turning it off, but my neighbors have one. I can optimize the way I use my phone, but there's still going to be some electricity. So are there other things that I can do that I don't have to think as much about? And I think when I've talked to you before, I always like to say, for your Wi-Fi router, get a timer. It's like $10. You set it and you forget it. And at least you don't have that extra Wi-Fi stimulus at night. And you have a timer that says, hey, look, it's really time to go to bed now because you can't get on your device. But what's really important to me is really that when I go to sleep, I want to create a sanctuary where I'm protecting myself even further from EMF exposure. I'm in a proper body position because, like, my wife likes to sleep a little more on her back than her side. I tend to like to sleep a little more on my side, but there's value to sleeping on your side more than your back. There's also value to sleeping with your head up we're really trying to optimize brain detoxification as well as calm nervous systems. And so that's where the cool dark comes in. And then with Samina, what's so cool is like and I'm sure Claus can describe this in even greater detail, but it's like when there's this thing, there's two sides of the bed, right? And he's like, oh, there's the picture of the wine glass on one side and there's somebody jumping on the other. And you're like, there's no way that this bed is that custom to each person without being some electrical fandangled thing, which is going to cause more problem than good. But sure enough, you hop up and down on this, your wine glass next to you is good. When I turn in any position, my body's 100% custom supported. And what my life completely changed when I went from like a crooked spine and trying to prop myself up to having the bed do all the work for me without me even thinking. And I think that's really a place for at night is make it comfortable without a lot of electricity, without a lot of light.
Yeah, I wanted to comment about that because with the Samina bed, which I just ordered mine, which I finally invested in myself, in my sleep. I finally did it. Because Claus, I met you about 7-8 years ago at the Bulletproof conference, and I laid on the bed and I was just like, I was just really taken aback by how comfortable it was and how it formed to your body. And I had thought I had invested in myself by buying a memory foam mattress. This is before I knew how incredibly toxic they are, but I slept amazing because it formed to my body. But it just this chemicals, you're just breathing those in all night long. And it's really horrifying to look at when you look at the cumulative effects that can have on your health, even though maybe you wake up without, your muscles are okay, have a stiff neck and things like that. But when I laid on this and then I saw that it's in 2 sections, each bed has 2 sections, like Tom, you just mentioned, where your partner, when they start rolling around, it doesn't disturb your sleep at all, which is brilliant. So there's kind of 2 separate skeletons or slats or however you call it that form to your body, and they have the same thing on each side. And so I think it's just a brilliant design. Can you talk maybe a little bit more about?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what I want to point out first, when people make this decision to upgrade their sleeping environment and purchase a new mattress, I think overall people do not spend enough time to read some of the fine prints on homepages. And in general, this is kind of, I think, a very important decision to make. What mattress would be right for me? And this should be not done in 5 minutes. This is not enough time. The problem is, as we know today, you can pretty much say and claim on your homepage whatever you feel like. And I call it, there is no policing. You have to make your own judgment. This is correct what I'm reading and I believe it, or this is incorrect. So the bedding industry became very smart while with COVID, online shopping was going up substantially and store visits being kind of limited, especially lying in bed where other strangers lie on the same bed 5 minutes later. So the mattress industry had a huge jump on online sales, and they really upgraded their game, how sexy a homepage looks and how appealing this is attracting to certain people in certain age groups. And, even you think you buy organic, and some people are so smart, they're changing the word organic they're removing the last letter and adding another letter there. This doesn't mean this is the same word, and this doesn't mean this product is really organic.
Yeah, I got it. A lot of deceptive marketing out there. And I was really shocked, Claus, when I had a conversation with you about a lot of organic bedding out there and different terms that are used to kind of greenwash mattresses. Yeah. Can you talk a little about that? Because I think, a lot of people listening to this podcast are obviously concerned about toxins, investing in their health, thinking about, not wanting to be breathing in toxins or being exposed to toxins and flame retardants for 1/3 of their life while they're sleeping. So how are customers being deceived by kind of greenwash products or mattresses that claim to be organic?
Yeah, so there's 2 tricks how they're doing it. So normally commercial mattress brands in the United States have anywhere from 7 to 12 different components. And some of these components are having certified green standards. So the question is, who is creating those standards? So these standards are very often created by third parties, but then is the question, where is the third party funded from? And very often the parties are funded from the mattress companies. So this is kind of a certification, what becomes a little bit iffy when the money comes from the same manufacturer or vendors. And this is all organization. It doesn't matter which brand you really purchase or get commercial-wise, they're all in a big pool of the same kind of business. So this set means those certifications are also very low bars, at least for a German-speaking and German-born raised man like me. When something is 60% or 70% organic, I still don't want 30% chemicals in my bed, period. I want pure organic. And is this possible? Yes, it's possible. So those standards and those certifications are on a really low hanging fruit for us at Samina. And then the trick, what they're doing is, so let's say there is 9 or 10 components. There is 2 purchased under organic certification, so are questionable. The other ones are all synthetic based. And the reason how you can find this one out, when anytime you see the little R sign with a cycle or the little TM trademark, this means the patent office in the United States gave me the right to use this word exclusive for my company, and any competitor will be not able to use the same terms. So what this means, the patent office in the United States will never give you a patent on the real piece of Goddess Earth product. So I cannot walk in the patent office today and say, I like to get the word banana registered. It's not possible. Banana came from planet Earth. So this means for the consumers, anytime you see a registered trade name, those products are synthetic-based, man-made, and they automatically contain contents of petroleum, flame retardants, and other toxic byproducts.
Yeah, and when I was having a conversation with you about how these companies greenwash mattresses, there are so many different layers. And like you said, there might be 2 or 3 layers that are technically organic or organic latex, but there are other components that are not. That, like you said, that are these toxic ingredients are being hidden behind these kind of, organic or green or environmentally friendly names and trademark names. That's all they are, trademark names. Exactly. And yeah, and then and so when you think about it, you have flame retardants in mattresses. The majority of mattresses, isn't it in the entire United States, they have to have flame retardants sprayed on them?
There is still a very old law from the federal government in the United States to any mattress assembled in the United States needs to have the flame retardants. This is all going all the way back when smoking in bed was very popular.
In the 70s, back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, in the 80s.
Maybe kind of born. And this law was never changed and untouched. So even when mattress companies list on their homepage, our mattress is free of flame retardants, I don't believe them 100% while the federal law is in place. And when you get audited, what happens when you have a manufacturing location? You would pay a substantial fine on this violating of federal laws. So the much safer way, this is what I had to decide, my unpopular decision, should I start manufacturing Samina in the United States or leave it in Austria, where we original from? I had to decide to leave it in Austria while those kind of law does not exist in Austria, period. So my product can be imported without infusing them with any kind of flame retardants, and you get penalized with the government anyway, while we pay much higher duty rates and have other complications like expensive freight charges to get products from A to B. But the product is more authentic. And then before I really want to forget, let's say organic is organic, but also people believe a mattress is still organic when I have metal springs partially in my bed with merino wool or natural Talalay rubber on top or below me. No, this mattress is disqualified to be organic as well. The bottom line is exposure of electromagnetic fields and radio frequency during the time of sleep are having the same severe damage what you may experience from off-gassing of chemicals, PDEs, and flame retardants.
Yeah, and at least you can detox out some of these chemicals that we're accumulating. But with the EMF, I mean, that's just a nonstop chronic exposure. Yeah. That is just, and I'll get into that in a second. I want us to talk about toxins a little bit more that are found in mattresses. But yeah, the EMF is a huge problem. The last thing that you want when you're sleeping all night long is to sleep on a mattress with metal coils that's attracting all the EMF around it and then just funneling it right into your body. It's just frightening. But let's go back to toxins for a second. So, Tom, can you talk a little bit about flame retardants and what those can do to our body?
Yeah, I mean, I think any of these, I think a lot of us have heard about, xenoestrogen, xenobiotics, and all these external chemicals. And a lot of them, depending upon the specific chemical, can alter, the function of memory, the function of our endocrine or our hormone system. And many of them even can promote cancers and stuff. And so, like you were just alluding to, like I try to really minimize my exposure at nighttime, because you think about it, we try to get in that relaxed parasympathetic nervous system state, which is the opposite of go, go, go and fight or flight, like driving the car, but it's the opposite of stress. And also one part of what it does, which has to do with why we don't want to be exposed to as many toxins, is as we're sleeping, we're getting more and more parasympathetic. That's when our body is absorbing the most through our gastrointestinal tract. That's where we're digesting and assimilating the most amount of food and the nutrients from them. But the same thing about our skin. So the more calm we are, the more open we are to receiving from our environment, which when we're talking about food, that's a good thing usually. And receiving the benefits of sleep are good. But if we're getting ourselves in a place where we're exposed to more of these chemicals that can alter the way our hormones function, the way we think, and maybe even promote cancer, et cetera. And so many of us, in my history, I've had heavy metal issues. I've seen EMFs bother me. And it's crazy. Sometimes you're so used to the exposure that you don't even recognize it until you've detoxified from it. And that's one of the things that was really dramatic when I shifted my sleep system. The more I detoxified, the more I was for the beginning parts, I was more sensitive to everything, which a lot of my patients are like, oh, I don't want to get any more sensitive. I'm like, but just wait, let your body clean out, and then it'll really be stronger. So you develop the resilience. But it's really important. Like even now we'll talk about like EMF as a problem, or maybe some of these off-gassing from some of the, plastics. What about just like when you go to a hotel and I lay down and I'm smelling this horribly powerful perfumey thing it could be the chemical that's bothering my body while I'm sleeping. It could also just be that my nose is not used to being assaulted with the perfume. So now I'm getting the stimulus all night long. So I'm always trying to minimize and look at like what are both the direct toxic effects of those, but also the indirect effects where like, hey, is this really, am I sleeping as well as I thought? And I really learned that after my Samina experience. I'm like, I thought I was really good. And one of the things too, I should point out is like when I first started hanging out with Claus, we started playing around because I don't believe anything he says, because I don't believe anything anybody says. Like I do what he said is I go to the website, I read it, and then I do my own research. So I grabbed a millivolt meter because I'm like, there's no way this grounding pad works so well to protect me while I'm sleeping, but it feels like it does. So I got my meter and I've got like 600 millivolts in my hand. And as soon as I hop on this thing, it goes well below 100 millivolts. It's like 30 to 40. And healthy sleep, really, we want to aim for below 100 millivolts coursing through our body of electricity. But the reality is most people who do even a really bang up job are still at 200 or 300. Whereas I can get to below 40 with my Locusana grounding mat, which is part of the Samina system. But what's really crazy is my daughter was doing this video with me, and she decided that there was a torchère lamp plugged into the wall next to us, and she wrapped her arm around it. 16,000 plus millivolts. So what we were finding, going back to what you're saying about the coils, is because like I can go look up like the chemical compounds of some constituent in a particular bed and find out what it is known to do poorly. And we all think about, let's go to the MSDS, the material safety crap. But the bottom line is, if I take my lamp and I plug it into the wall and then I bring the lamp closer to me, the cord from the lamp is actually extending the electricity out of the wall, bringing it closer. And so how many of us have everything is coming closer to the bed? And then you think about, now I've brought 16,000 millivolts closer to my body when I want to be below 100. And now I have coils in my mattress that are amplifiers of that. So I'm always going like, there's the really obvious toxic exposure, and I can look at that. But then I'm like, what am I doing by accident trying to be cleaner in my room, but I'm not even thinking about the cord coming closer and closer to my body?
Yeah, and that's just frying your nervous system and scrambling your brain waves, and interrupting the brain waves you're supposed to have while you're sleeping. And I think people realize that when they're sleeping, their body needs to be totally shielded from EMF. We can't shield ourselves 100% during our daily lives. We can make our home somewhat of a cocoon, but at some point we have to leave and venture forth. But when you're sleeping, you have to be thinking about, especially going more and more into the future, you have to be thinking about creating an EMF-free or super low EMF environment while you're sleeping, or your body just can't rest and recover. You just can't rejuvenate when you're just being kind of, because our bodies are electrical. Our bodies need to be grounded. Our bodies work through electricity and energy, and we have to have different tools to kind of optimize and protect that mechanism.
And Wendy, when you're talking about, like you said earlier about hydration is such a key. So we're supposed to be 70% plus water. And so a lot of having the proper nutrient balance in our water within our body is what allows the electricity to flow. And what allows our brain to detoxify better is actually, having the system primarily works through hydration. But the other part that's so interesting is if we're exposed to EMFs, or if we're also exposed to other toxic substances, we can develop a thing called rouleau bodies, which is essentially saying our red blood cells will stack on top of each other. And so whether it's the toxin from your detergent, the toxin off-gassing from your flame retardant or plastics in your frame or the electronics, or the direct EMF, all of these things lead to inflammation in your system and hypercoagulability of the blood that mimic acute infection, chronic infection, cancer states, and also autoimmune conditions. So these rouleau bodies are indicators of all these big nasty things we don't want. We can actually be causing them by sleeping in an inappropriate environment.
And so, Claus, could you talk about the grounding pad that's part of the Samina Sleep system? There are so many different components of the sleep system. It's not just a mattress, it's an entire system. But let's talk about this one part of the system that helps to just completely ground your body while you're sleeping and protect from EMF.
The nice thing with the Samina Sleep system is we actually have 4 different layers, and each layer of the sleep system is imitating one part of the human body. This means you really have peace of mind. There is a specific product for a specific body part available with a Samina purchase. The grounding pad Locosana actually recognized last year in October as a medical device in the European community and certified. This means when you live in Europe, in one of the 27 European countries, and your Western-trained doctor subscribes you a grounding pad, and you have a half-decent health insurance, those health insurance will reimburse you for a purchase of a Samina grounding pad, while we did recognize while we managed to get a certification. So the nice thing with the Samina grounding pad is the principle is different than many of the North American versions, what are based on direct contact to the human skin. The Samina grounding pad is actually 47% of pure silver, compared to the ordinary ones, anywhere between 2 and 5% silver-aluminum layers. And in the last recent years, with exposing us to 4G and 5G cell phone towers in residential neighborhoods for driverless cars and much faster internet, we do require a much higher contents of a grounding material in our beds to be really grounded under this guideline, less than 100 millivolt. So the silver material is embedded in merino wool. Then naturally speaking, merino wool is nothing else than a natural sponge and can remove human moisture during the time of sleep away from you, what will lower your body temperature in the beginning of the night. And during the morning hours of the night, you will actually increase your body temperature slightly before waking up. And in the same time, you take the moisture away from the dangerous dust mites who love to live in your bed and do other damages. So the combination of this 40% of pure silver, the merino wool above and below, and about 12 magnets going to the left and the right side to bring you automatically in north-south polarization, what will also stabilize the Earth magnetic field under the sleeping area and will naturally improve your sleeping benefits and your sleep quality and sleep efficiency with North-South pole. Embedded in merino wool, this layer is a very powerful layer. What this means, silver is about, let's say a number, at 500,000 times better conductor for EMFs and electromagnetic fields than the human body. All these frequencies go around you and get pushed away through the cable attached permanently to the ground wire of your outlet. But then, of course, there was this argument, and still the argument is around today, what's happened with dirty electricity on my ground wire in my outlet, and what's with dirty electricity on my LED lighting? We had to install a kind of a breaker in the small, tiny cable from the grounding pad to the outlet to make sure nothing can go this way, and we're pushing everything this way. So there is no harm from the human body to have any exposure to dirty electricity. And second of all, you don't even touch the material with your bare skin, so there can be no harm anyway. And this really leads to this, what Tom already said in the beginning of our conversation. We will substantially increase our melatonin level naturally, and we compress our cortisol levels, what is our stress hormone. And under the dark field microscopy, we will encourage the red blood cells to keep carrying a huge amount of oxygenation, what will stop long-term human inflammation.
I think that's so important because when you talk about the cord not allowing, I think that's so important when you talk about the cord going into the electrical socket from the grounding pad, you protect that dirty electricity from going, into the pad, because there's a big problem with a lot of grounding pads where when you plug them in, inevitably you're going to have this dirty electricity, or this electricity just kind of like sheds off of your home's electrical system, which is a huge problem. And that can go into a lot of different grounding pads and create more of a problem that people are attempting to solve with the grounding pads. But you've obviously thought about that and incorporated that. What do you call it? What are you calling it?
It's like a mini breaker in your panel.
A breaker, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not allowing the dirty electricity to go this flow, goes this flow. I also want to tell Tom, I do a lot of readings, right? When we do home services in California area, I wish we only came across readings of 200 or 400 millivolts. When people have ordinary commercial brands with metal springs, I'm measuring 2, 3, 4, 5,000, 10,000 millivolt. Right? This is above any norm whatsoever. The biology people recognizing everything above 1,000 millivolt is extreme danger. So it's actually really worse than we thought it is.
Yeah, and when you're sleeping on mattresses like this with the metal coils, and you're registering at 2, 3, 4, 5,000 millivolts, I mean, you're going to wake up exhausted. You're going to be chronically fatigued over time. You're going to have brain fog. You're going to have weight gain. You're going to have poor immune system functioning. I mean, just you can keep adding and adding on different chronic health issues when you don't get proper sleep. And just that one issue alone, the metal coils in the mattress, which is in probably 95% of the mattresses of the people listening to this podcast today, just that one thing alone is causing a huge detriment to your health, and you don't even realize it because, like you said, Tom, people don't realize how badly they're sleeping until they actually fix the issues that are causing poor sleep.
There's one that would be a quick self-study, but while people ask me how I know I have exposure of EMF or not, just think about it, how often you dream. Dreams are part of our life, and when you're a good night sleeper, you should have dreams every morning before you wake up, and you should technically be able to remember your dreams. And the bottom line is, when people have a disturbed sleeping environment and then a high exposure of electromagnetic fields and radio frequencies, and even you think you're EMF sensitive, you most likely have maybe 1 dream a week, maybe 2 dreams a month, or 3 or 4. So this dreaming is totally limited, and this is a natural sign and a natural reinforcing for your environment in your current home. You have to do something to make this better.
And I think to your point too, a lot of it is good sleep is not sexy, right? I mean, I joke a lot that I became a competitive sleeper once I actually learned that I wasn't sleeping.
I love that.
It's so much better, right? But it is, and it's like you get your little monitor, whether it's a ring or a watch or whatever, and you can start to be, but healthy competitive, and understanding your sleep cycle will shift day in and day out. But I think a lot of what you highlighted, Wendy, and that we've been talking about is that a lot of what happens with sleep is not immediate. So as an example, like we have a concept called sleep debt. When I grew up, they said, oh, you have to pay back like a quarter or a fifth of all the sleep. Well, it turns out it's more like 100%. So all of us who have become physicians and gone through residencies and didn't sleep for days on end, they were hazing you so that you could perform at a suboptimal level by rote, right? So like you could memorize stuff, because we know that even a small sleep disturbance can decrease your ability to learn by 40%. Right, which is insane. So now we start thinking, oh, our kids, if we want them to perform well in school, we need to get them sleeping. If we're worried about something, or maybe shouldn't be the right word to use, but if we want to avoid early onset cognitive dysfunction or dementia, well, we have to start 30 and 40 years ahead of time. But we do know is that if you're, say, an executive, or a high performer, someone who's doing a lot of work, or even just a parent who's doing a job or two and raising your kids, in your 30s and 40s, if you start sleeping less than 6 hours a night, we can measure rapid buildup of amyloid plaque, or amyloid is a protein that most of us think of as, ultimately leading to Alzheimer's. So if you don't want Alzheimer's, you want to wash out your amyloid at night, right? And so, but we can measure massive increases in that in the brains of 30 and 40-year-olds who are just sleeping less than 6 hours a night. And how many people do you know do that, right? And it's like, it's unbelievable. If you start sleeping over 7 hours a night as an adult, your brain, you can literally watch it in real time clean out. And then when you look at things like the inflammation, you want good melatonin. You want good melatonin so you sleep, but it's also a great anti-inflammatory. It's one of the best anti-inflammatories for everyone's favorite virus that's been going around. But so it's like, hey, if I want to be the most antiviral, well, I need sleep. If I want to prevent, because melatonin helps prevent cancer. If I want to prevent cancer down the road, I need to sleep now. And the thing is, like, I can think about it, like I could go buy most people spend like 5 to 10 times more on their car than they do on their mattress. And some people spend 100 times more on their car than their mattress. And you think about it, it's like, I spend between a half an hour and 2 hours every couple of days in my car, or I sleep 8 to 9 hours every night in my bed. And then I go, wow, it's like, but why do I want the car? Well, the car gives me the instant gratification of cruising around in something cool. I can show off to my friends, and it serves a purpose. And I think one of the things in our world is I was never taught that sleep serves a purpose, and that sleep was such a valuable health promoting thing. So if people ask me, the number one thing you can do for your health is to sleep. I mean, obviously you have to eat and drink water, but it's like, how hard is that? Wake up, go out and get some sun, eat and drink, move your body, go to sleep and sleep well, and do some self sort of relaxing things right before you go to sleep. But I guess the point is I would love to change the conversation around sleep from oh, damn it, I have to turn off Netflix or YouTube and I have to go to bed, but then I have to set an alarm to get up. I'd love for you to go, oh my God, sleep. And this is what was so crazy about Samina. Like, I laid on it. I was like, it's a cloud. I jumped up and down and I couldn't spill somebody's wine on the other side. I was like, this is going to work. And I said to my wife, I was like, we have to buy this thing. She's like, are you crazy? And I go, no, I'm not going to get a new car. I'm getting a new mattress. And we bought it with her never even laying on it. And now she wants me to find a way to have it travel with us. Like, it's literally like, once you experience sleep is not just like a thing you have to do and toss and turn and maybe it happened, where you can not hear it from the three of us, but to directly experience it for yourself, how amazing it feels to actually be supported like you're in a womb still. It's like you're floating on a cloud or in water, and then you start to wake up going, wow. everything feels so good. And I can think more clearly. I'm emotionally more regulated. And where I used to have a hard time wanting to go to bed, it's like I'm turning off the TV, I'm putting down the book, and I'm going to bed early because it feels so good. But we just haven't, I know that driving a fancy car down the road feels good because I think people are looking at me. Most of them are probably saying, you're a turd because you're buying this expensive car and you're not buying a good mattress, but that would be nice, right?
Again,
It's just so important to change the conversation around sleep because it's the best thing you can do today. It's the best thing you can do for next month. It's the best thing for next year. And it's really the best thing for 10 and 20 years down the road. And that's kind of been sort of where some people get tripped up on it because you have to invest in your sleep now.
Tom, you really said the right things. The benchmark for our own sleeping is pretty low and underestimated. People think they sleep well while the benchmark is so low. They don't actually even know anymore what a good night's sleep is while it's so hard to experience. And, with Samina, we talked about now the brain detoxifying process. We didn't stop to creating this Samina sleep system with 4 layers. We are also including now in our bedroom option called the gravity sleep, the incline sleep, where your head is already naturally 3.5 degrees higher than your feet. And the reason is the owner of Samina did find out our ancestors slept like this already many, many hundreds of years ago. They didn't really could tell us why they did this. This was something more naturally. And actually, you can catch some of your household animals when they're in nature to lie down on a slight hill. The dogs like to do that and other animal in animal kingdom. And then space medicine was aware of the problem with with having no gravity, how much damage this actually occurs on human bodies when you spend 6 months or 12 months in orbit with no gravity and you're returning back to Earth. So with the slight incline sleep, what also can be not misunderstood with hospital beds where you kind of having a reading upright position, this is not really a real incline. This is just a comfort adjustment to do any other activities than sleeping in bed. A real incline should be really over the entire length of the bed. This obviously can be made by a handful of books up to 5 to 7 inches or a brickstone, or you get a nicer solution from us, our handcrafted, my own designed bed frame called Pummer incline bed frame, where you have actually the legs make these adjustments on the outside of the bed. And then you also automatically receive a handcrafted bed frame from a piece of solid wood, what did not become paper or didn't burn down while no one cleans up the forest anymore. We actually have finding the last source of a tree would be building a beautiful piece of furniture. And this is my trade, what I learned. And before I come to forget about this point, did you guys know Americans throw about 20 million mattresses in landfills every year? Plus millions of megaton of household furniture and bedroom furniture made in MDF particle board, while they just don't last longer. And people get so used to buy stuff from IKEA or other big box brands where particle board and MDF is the common building material. Mine alone, the negative impact on our environment and our kids and our grandkids is already pretty much discussing to think about it. So with Samina, not only grounding, not only inclined sleep for better brain detox, and actually the inclined will encourage our brain to detox by 10 times more. What is a substantial improvement? When you suffer, what is really important to understand too, sleep apnea, affect reflex, and snoring are chronic sleep disorders. We have a huge success now to address those symptoms. Either we can lower them or we actually make them go away without any medication or any devices to use. There was a lot of accident happened during this time to exploring inclines. And then the rest of Samina, what is just pure merino wool for better temperature control and sleeping temperature, the natural rubber for removing the pressure points on joints and tissue and muscles to not create any kind of numbness on your body so your arm does not fall to sleep and you not wake up in the middle of the night. And our double layer wooden slats for the orthopedically spinal support, what actually brings your spine in this S-shaped curve, like standing position, but in this case, lying position, and the individually support between spouses, then, you weigh 120 pounds and your partner maybe weighs 220 pounds. One big mattress can never adjust this naturally to your own side of the bed. So the whole principle of this bed is just fantastic. And I'm so honored and happy to import this bed to the United States for more than 20 years now, and being so successful with a customer group who is way more open-minded to look in alternatives before they get sick. Then, our statistics are pretty grim as well. An average couple in the United States in the age of 65 needs $250,000 after Medicare pays the ordinary bills till you die. So can you imagine you take this $250,000 and you buy a handful of good mattresses for the rest of your family, and the rest of the money you blow while you maybe don't even get sick anymore, while you actually improved the most important room in your house, your bedroom? How lovely would that be?
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on the brain detox improvement when you're sleeping on that 3% incline with the Samina bed, because that definitely got my attention. Because, I just did this huge docuseries called Heavy, where I interviewed 100 experts from around the world. And the consensus from Dr. David Perlmutter, from other doctors and neurologists that I interviewed on the series, were that toxins are the number one cause of dementia. And many people they have health habits, or they have like a forward, position with their neck and their head that prevents this lymphatic drainage of their brain, that prevents this lymphatic drainage of their brain. And they have, they're not sleeping enough. And there's other things that are preventing brain detox, but it's so brilliant to sleep at this 3% incline where you 10x, you increase your brain's ability to detox and drain by 10 times. And it does it without you having to do any detox protocols or add more things to what you're already doing for your health.
It's kind of interesting too to me, because 80 to 90% of all of your brain detoxification is estimated to happen during sleep, particularly deep sleep. So we do need to go through the natural sleep cycles in order to have the memory consolidation and the optimal brain detoxification. And that's just starting point. Now you can 10x it by putting yourself in that 3.5 degree angle. If you think about it, most of us are sitting or standing upright most of the day. And then, so we have a certain amount of pressure in our head. And then we go to bed, we lay down flat. If we're doing it the old school way, that while we're sleeping, our brain is seeing the most amount of pressure it will see in the entire day while you're trying to clean it out. So it's kind of like you're trying to clean out a clogged toilet or a clogged drain while someone's dumping more and more water into it. Yeah. So I'm always like, how do we minimize the pressure? Because the lymphatic system you talked about is the name for that brain detoxification system, but it's kind of a riff on lymphatics, right? Because lymphatics are, most of the body, they're a low pressure system that require muscle contraction or pressure gradient changes in order to move these fluids through it to clean up the body. So with sleep, though, it's mostly we get a fluid wave through the brain while we're in that deep sleep. But to your point about our posture, once it drains out of our head, which primarily comes through the nose or around where the vagus nerve comes out of the back of your head, once it's out of then it's all low pressure. So if we have that head forward posture, reading, playing on a tablet, we're going to potentially minimize that. And so then how many people are propped up and they're doing these weird calisthenics to try to get comfortable at night? I mean, I know people who have they're on their belly, they put their head this way and that way, and they've got all these props. Let's just get a bed that supports us in feeling good. So that, like Claus was saying, that normal S curve, it's not just because it doesn't make your back hurt or because it's what the orthopedist said is the best spinal curvature. It's because that's how your body naturally functions at its best. So if you want peak performance and you want peak brain detoxification, it's all about the position you're sleeping in, and why like make it an uphill battle.
Yeah.
Just really keep it as something much more relaxed, and just have it as, hey, I roll over in bed, now I'm sleeping. And I have to say too, I forgot about this earlier, Claus, but I have had some injuries in sports, because as people who know me, I work hard, play hard, and love enjoying life. And just like I'm a competitive sleeper, I'm pretty competitive at other things too. My neck pre-Samina was such a mess, like just from sports stuff and crashes and all this. So I tried every single pillow I ever knew of. And it was like, it's like I have a pillow graveyard. So I feel really bad now that we're talking about landfills, right? But when I got the Samina pillow, it is like music to my neck. It is like the most comfortable. So it's like these little tweaks that happen. Now I've got my head up. Now I'm laying on my side, but I'm in a proper curve, and I'm not doing this all night, because that's actually disrupting my sleep, and it's disrupting the drainage out of my brain. So I think it's a big thing that I mean, you could talk about sleep for, decades and not know all of it, but it's a simple, small tricks and tips that you can employ, bringing down the electricity that you're exposed to, both from the wall directly, and then all the other EMF with the flying through with the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, and then getting yourself in that calm state, getting yourself in a physical position that you can maintain. And I think you can do all of that with one simple solution.
Yeah.
Before I forget, also, Wendy and Tom, Samina, the owner is just a smart man. He really thought about the pillow, the comfort, and the incline and grounding. But now coming back, to dry a bed in a retail store, is this really necessary, and makes this actually sense? No. Then when you go to a retail environment and you lie 10 minutes and the bed in the front, what is most likely the cheapest one, and then you make your way all the way to the back of the store where the $10,000 bed is as well, and you lie 10 minutes there, then you try 20 different mattresses and you totally get confused, right? What feels good, what feels right. But this said is, you will never find out what are the real health and wellness benefits and sleep benefits after this is delivered to your own home, and you sleep a time frame of 4 weeks to 12 weeks in this environment in your own 4 walls. And then the argument would be, yeah, Claus, what's happened is when I do not like my Samina. And then my question is, yeah, what could be the concerns? There is most likely 2 common concerns about mattress purchases, too firm or too soft. And we made it happen. When you call us after purchase, we can tweak the bed on your side to make it a little bit softer. Wherever you find you need more softness, we can make this bed a little bit more firmer when you spend an extremely low amount of money after the purchase. And we automatically now including shoulder pads for side sleeping position in our first layer to allow to your shoulder to sink in much deeper in the inside of our mattress without any pressure point coming up. So this is so beautiful. You are not getting stuck with the current version of Samina. You can really fine-tune it and tweak the bed to your own preference after you got used to it. So it's just a fantastic product.
Yeah, and I cannot wait to get my Samina bed. I am just salivating at the mouth right now, because I have laid on the bed and I just could not believe, because it feels like you're weightless. Like you don't feel anything pressing up against your hips or your neck. And I'm a side sleeper, so it's hard for, like, I can't even tell you like the jokes I make when I injure myself. I only injure myself in bed while I'm sleeping. That's pretty much the only time I hurt myself, because it's kind of ridiculous, because a lot of times I'll wake up with like a stiff neck, even though I'm using a pretty good pillow. The stiff neck happens a lot. I'll wake up with my shoulder hurting because I'm my shoulder like all, hunched up in my neck. And then I also discovered last month I have a scoliosis in my lower back. And when I'm sleeping on my side and my hip is pushed you're sleeping on a flat surface, my other side of my hip just gets completely pushed out of alignment. it just murder on my back. And I frequently wake up with one side of my back super, super tight. And that happened to me the other day. And I'm just like, I'm done with this. I'm just done with waking up stiff and achy and having issues like this. And so that's what I signed on the dotted line. and that's the next day you sent me the paperwork for the bed. I'm like, I'm done with this. So I think for many people, especially as they start getting older, they start having more issues with muscle tightness and with not recovering as well from like their exercise or what have you. I just certainly found that for myself. And so I can't wait to get a Samina bed and just, stop these injuries that I'm having in bed.
Actually, with the aging process, this week, this really came to my attention. We had some specials going on for the Black Friday, and my biggest customer group is 75 and 85 years older. It's incredible how much the older generation actually now really treat themselves and spoil themselves for the last quarters of their life. Then, life expectancy is in the 70s, but when you follow some basic instinct and you follow some of your guys' advice, I believe you can make it to 100 when you follow my advice to sleep well in a good sleeping environment. So those kind of customer who are already, we're talking about now old people all the time, while we have an upcoming race for the government next year. And, do you really function in doing the aging process? Looks like a lot of older people will live much longer than we thought we live. And, there's nothing worse, waking up in the morning stiff and pain. And you should really treat yourself when you reached already an age of 80 years. You should treat yourself. You deserve it. You did everything right in life to come this far. You finished your responsibilities with your kids and show them how to live a fulfillment and good life. You work most likely for 35, 40 years of your life. Yes, you deserve a good bed. Don't be shocked to spend an unusual amount of money. And the amount actually is not so unusual for me. Well, of course, I'm in the business. But, the conventional bedding industry really thinks a $900 mattress is good for you. So when we, calculating backwards, a $900 mattress costs maybe $75 to make. And there is so many middlemen and people involved in these transactions till this mattress reaches your home. Do you really believe a $75 component mattress does something good for you? No, my lunch for a party of 4 people cost me $75.
Yes,
I think. I was just going to say, I just think it's so important because we have these studies that show any sleep disruption like dramatically will increase your risk of all-cause dementia, right? And you can just say, if you're getting dementia, that means brain detoxification is not working. That's impacting your performance and your emotions and the way you can participate with your friends, your family, your partner, your children. It's like, it's those little things that we often overlook, and for you, Wendy, the good news is, at least if you were a mouse or a rat, the number one position to sleep in is on your side. We even know that 2 hours or more on your back will increase your risk of all-cause cognitive decline as well. And being on your belly is terrible. But I mean, I think that's really the key is to, and as you're talking about investing in yourself and stuff in your future, it is like investing for the future as well as now. But also, I used to have to purchase on a regular basis, at least if you want to do it right and not wear out your mattress wears out and you have to get a new one. Well, with the Samina thing, most of it is going to be a lifetime purchase. There's a few things that might need to change, but I'm minimizing what I'm putting in the landfill, which the environmental, like I want the world to be here for my kid, when she grows up. But also, it's just like, I feel it's important to not be wasteful about it. And also have a product. Once you find something you really like, I don't want to have to like throw it away and then break in something new. So it's one of these things where, for at least in our family, my whole family sleeps on it. And even my little one, since she's like just turned 14. So she started when she was 8.5 or 9, I think. And it makes so much more sense once you get, and I will just remind people, is like, I had really poor sleep when I had chronic infections. And once I got those under control and I slept better, it took me 10 months before I woke up rested. So a lot of my patients who get on a Samina, or even just use some of the basic tips that we talked about that you could start right now as soon as you listen to this, like turning off your Wi-Fi, getting in the bed sooner, keeping it cool and all that good stuff. You may be more tired for the first couple of weeks or even couple months, but what you typically will see is that your amount of tiredness throughout the day gets less and less and less. So a lot of people are waking up exhausted, but it's more like, oh, I wish I could sleep longer, right? It's different than like, I just feel like crap. And it'll start to go. And then once I got that paid my sleep debt back, then I was doing the opposite. I was putting sleep in the bank. And that's where you really start to feel great. So if you have had an opportunity to not sleep well, and now you're changing that and you're sleeping great, just be aware that one of the number one indicators that it's working is that you're more tired in the short run, because you're paying that back. Your body's rejuvenating and it's getting ready to have all this wonderful energy and allow you to do all the things you really want to be doing.
Yeah. And another thing I wanted to talk about was, for me, that one of the main reasons that I was waking up multiple times during the night was because I was too hot. And with a lot of natural latex mattresses that some people are buying, they're really hot to sleep on. And so people have to get cooling pads or just do other things, and they don't realize that's why they're waking up. You need to have a cool environment to sleep. And, optimally between, 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit is that ideal temperature. And with the Samina Sleep system, you there's space, underneath the slats. You kind of get like airflow through there. And you have the merino wool as well that wicks away moisture and heat from you as well.
Yeah, I know the Samina is fantastic for temperature control. With the open concept, between the 90 slats, we have 1 inch. The natural rubber has tiny holes. The surrounding pad in merino wool topper is merino wool, what is totally breathable and transmit, the airflow like this. The moisture gets sucked away from the human body, cools you down on the beginning of the night, gives you a little bit more warning time while the body temperature drops by 1.2 Celsius at the beginning of sleep. In the morning, body temperature rises again when cortisol kicks in and your heartbeat goes up slightly and wake up time. And then the bed is a good height from the floor. People, think I want to sleep on the ground. No, you don't want to sleep on the ground. There's too much formaldehyde in your flooring materials. There's too much dust mites and dust on the ground, and you're breathing in all unnecessary stuff again. So the good height from the floor, it's seating height, dining chair height, anywhere between 18 and 21 inches, what my Samina bed is in the middle when you sleep with an angle. So we really thought about everything, and there's nothing forgotten about this bed. And I can encourage everybody to check out my homepage, what is saminasleep.com. So please remember, saminasleep.com is the American homepage, and people can shoot us an email. We do offer a 30-minute consultation for free to talk with one of our sleep advisors. I'm very often pick up the phone, and I will be able to have these conversations in depth and be really helping you through this process to understand what you're really buying. Then the last thing what I want to do in life, I'm not interested to sell you one more mattress today. I have no interest in this kind of business. My business is I want to sell good night's sleep, and I really want to help truly out of my heart to feel people feel better, sleep better, and automatically gain a better health or stay healthy and live a long time. This is my mission. What took me, I'm 58 years now. I did not know exactly what I want to do as a young kid, and took me a couple of years to figure this one out. I would say in the 50s, beginning of the 50s, I was really to a point where Samina became my bread and butter, and where I really saw the positive feedback of the effort we do, and I was shocked actually how much we could help people with all the positive feedback on Google testimonials or any kind of internal emails going back and forth. And I'm shipping this bed around the world. I'm shipping to South Korea. I shipped to Israel actually 2 months ago. I shipped to Portugal, to Spain, to Australia, to Canada, where I was living for a while. United Kingdom is a huge market for me. I'm going there frequently once a year to meet Dr. Klinghardt and do a pretty great show with Jim Gray, what is a biohacker. He's on a really good path to do something extraordinary with people. So you can buy this bed anytime, anywhere, and we make it happen to get it to your home.
So guys, if you want to check out more about the Samina Sleep system, go to saminasleep.com/Wendy, and you'll also get a special discount for my followers. So be sure to check out that page, and you won't regret getting a Samina Sleep system. I invested in it. I don't know why it took me so long, Claus. I don't know. I met you like 7 to 8 years ago, and I'm just kicking myself that I didn't like pull the trigger sooner. I just don't know why I didn't do that. But yeah, I'm happy that I finally did it. And because as I've gotten older over the past 7, 8 years, and I've hurt myself so many times. I woke up with a hurt neck or a hurt back or something. I'm just done. I'm over it. So I pulled the trigger. So everyone, thanks for tuning into the Myers Detox podcast. I'm Dr. Wendy Myers, and I'm bringing you experts from around the world to upgrade your health because you deserve to feel good.
The Myers Detox podcast is created and hosted by Wendy Myers. This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Wendy Myers and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.